Time now to sample Ducati's middleweight ripper, the 749 Dart. Based on its World Superbike-ready big brother, the 999, the sleek 749 is basically a scaled-down version of the full Monty Superbike. The main difference being obviously smaller slugs internally and a slightly smaller rear wheel. What you see here is a liquid-cooled 4-valve per-cylinder twin with fuel-injected throttle bodies and a catalytic-equipped single-pipe exhaust. A 6-speed gearbox and dry clutch deliver the ponies, while a 43mm inverted Showa fork mounted with 320mm semi-floating discs handle the stops. So how does it all work? Well, that's kind of tough to say because our guest road tester this week, Mark Russell, and myself just couldn't stop ourselves from constantly standing back and staring at this machine's beautiful detail.
Well, Mark, when I talk about my first impression of a motorcycle like this, I hate bikes like this because you can't walk away from them. There's just so much to look at.
It's pretty cool for sure.
And it's everywhere.
It's a work of art everywhere you look. And it looks mean in this color.
Yep.
Which is, it comes in 3 colors, red, yellow, and dark.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a cool name.
Did you ever think you'd find yourself approving of a dark motorcycle?
No, actually, I would find it hard to choose between red and yellow because they're both so cool. But when I saw this, it looks sinister. It's got a cool name, and it looks great in dark.
Yeah. Well, it sort of brings everything else out as far as the frame and the triple clamps and everything about this bike, though. I just can't stop looking at it.
Yeah, there's lots of fancy aluminum bits on it.
Yeah.
Like the triple clamps and the holders for the foot pegs. All that stuff's as fancy as it gets, even the swing arm.
So did you find time to ride it?
A little bit so far.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot, actually. I've ridden sport bikes before that I find to be too powerful for riding around in the street, and they're frightening. They're so powerful. And this one is a strong, fast bike.
Yep.
But because it's a V-twin, it seems a little more friendly.
Yep.
Still fast enough to do crazy things with, but easy to use.
And you don't have to be revving the snot out of it to have fun, right? Because you've got that torquey V-twin engine.
Yeah, you can just
There's a lot of usable power.
Yeah. There's a long highway ride to get here, and I thought that my hands and feet would be numb by the time I got here. There is a little bit of a vibration, but because it's a V-twin, the vibration's a slower frequency, and it's actually fine. So the motor, although it's a twin and not seemingly as smooth as a 4-cylinder, it's actually as smooth as it needs to be, and I found the bike really comfortable on the highway.
Yeah.
The bars are at the right height for taking on wind at 120 kilometers an hour, or whatever we were riding at, and so the wind holds your head up and your upper torso with just enough that you don't have too much weight on your hands.
Yeah.
The seat is really wide and flat. It's not cush or anything, but I didn't get an uncomfortable butt during the ride. It was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
And I've ridden sport bikes where you couldn't say that, where you are folded in half, and I'm a little too old to be doing that now, even though I still will. It has a lot of power. It doesn't sound like it. The first thing I think I'd change would be the exhaust. And it doesn't start really making noise until you're at 10,000 RPM, which is pretty close to the end of its usable range.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts to sound good.
Yeah.
But it's a modern bike. It has 2 catalytic converters. It's got lots of stuff making it too quiet to be the way you want it.
Yeah. Ducati's always been known to have the big Brembo brakes. Stopping power?
That's the biggest deal about this bike. I haven't really explored the limits of handling because we're street riding, so I haven't leaned all the way over, but the brakes are awesome. And I'd rather have big brakes than a big motor.
Yeah.
The gauges are cool, and there's a couple of electronic bits you can cycle through to pick up oil temperature and water temperature and trip distance, all that sort of stuff. I played with that a little bit. The mirrors are kind of neat. They swivel inside a housing, but like almost all sport bikes, they're completely useless. You have to pick your arm off the bar and look underneath it to see behind you.
Yeah. Anything let you down?
There's a catalytic converter underneath the seat, and I have to say in the city it got mighty hot.
Yeah.
I rode this down College Street in Toronto in Little Italy the other night, and people are waving and giving high fives and yelling Forza Italia. They're really proud of the brand.
Yeah.
And it looks cool. For me, it was like having a Ferrari for the weekend. And it really is like a motorcycle equivalent of a Ferrari. When I brought it to the office, people came downstairs to have a look. Oh, you got to go look at the bike, Mark Scott.
Right. Who would you recommend this bike for, Mark? Is it going to go back to the dealer?
Well, I'd like to have one. I don't think this is a bike for an 18-year-old kid necessarily. They're a little more expensive than the equivalent 600 class sport bike,
Yep.
and probably not as fast. For somebody like me, I don't care about what the 0 to 60 time or the quarter-mile time is. It's a really fast bike. It looks great. All the details are artfully executed.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of things I would appreciate, and I think the market for this bike are people like me who want a special bike.
Yeah.
And will pay a little extra for it. Although I don't think they're really that expensive compared to a Ferrari.
No, it's a little bit cheaper than a Ferrari. But you certainly get that cachet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Well, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you riding all the way out here. Now you got to ride all the way home.
Oh, yeah.
Tough job. Somebody's got to do it. But thanks for doing it, Mark.
Thanks, Dave.